Hey everybody, this is Mike at Plus 8 Precision. I got to disassemble the carriage. I've been doing a lot of measuring to try to determine the wear pattern on this lathe. It's fairly significant. Once I get the carriage out of the way, I'll go over some of these numbers I got written down here. There's wear in the carriage. There's wear in the cross slide. You've seen me do the video on the trying to use the epoxy to tighten up the nut. I mean, to a degree it worked. There's hardly any backlash whatsoever, but with all the rest of the wear in this lathe and carriage, it's hard to determine, where to go next, because there's a lot of vibration. The way this sits, we're not solid, so you get a lot of vibration when you're cutting apart, as well as because of the wear, the carriage moves in and out this way. So let me take this apart, and we'll go from there. By the way, these are 1/2 inch 8 left hand. There is a source for these. Excuse me. The source for this is just a larger piece of tapped. It doesn't look like a cross slide nut. And this, somehow I believe this comes apart somewhere around here. I haven't really looked, but I'm sure if it doesn't come apart, you can make it come apart. So, let's see. Oops. And then there's 4 bolts holding this on. This skid plate. All right, I'm going to try to give you you can kind of see the wear, the scoring. Same thing on this side. All right, I'm going to have to hold this by hand and show you these numbers. And I'll kind of explain real quick what they mean. What I did was I took a micrometer and measured the thickness of the flatway, which this is for the tailstock, and I measured the thickness back here on this flatway, which is for the carriage. And that's what these numbers are that you see, okay, in the back. And so you can see we have 495, which isn't too bad. 497, 499. Well, all the way back here where there would be less wear, we're at 1/2 inch and 7/10. I'm having a problem with focus there. So you can see there's not much wear, 3/1000 or so on that back flat. But when you come up to the front, again, we're right around that same 1/2 inch mark. All right, and then we keep going. You get some weird numbers. I don't know what these are, why they're 505, but I checked it, cleaned it, checked it, cleaned it, made sure there was no burrs or any areas where the metal was hit and proud. But you keep coming and you can see where we're going. 489, 490, and then back here I don't have a measurement, but it comes back up. So you can see we have about 10/1000 wear on the tailstock flat, which really doesn't make any sense, but that's what the numbers say. And then now you see these larger numbers here. The dimension itself is irrelevant. It's the difference in the dimension that I was looking for. And what I did, I just took and got a roll dimension off of here because there's so much wear in here. Using the carriage, to me, in my opinion, seemed pointless. Because the carriage, when you tap on it, you can feel that it's not flat. So the best I could come up with was trying to get a roll dimension off of here. I do have some other ideas, but the main reason I'm capturing all these dimensions is I've solicited a couple companies here in the local area for quotes to grind this bed. Now this bed overall is 70 inches from that end to that end. I don't know how much it weighs. We moved this in here with an engine lift. It didn't really seem all that heavy, but you know, there's no telling. So depending on the quote they give, and they're just going to give a budgetary quote, nothing that, you know, where they're really going to spend a lot of time with the details and setups and everything like that. They're just going to do some comparison quotes, and that's all I'm looking for, to see whether it's worth repairing this lathe, if the price is good. If the price is too high, obviously, then I will search for another lathe with less wear. But let's look at the numbers. So here, where I'm going to call this 0, we have 1 inch, 585 thousandths and 5/10. Again, that's to the roll that I used on the V. And the numbers, they all change as we get closer to the chuck. And there's the final number that I took. 1 inch, 605 thousand and 5/10. Well, the math is 20 thousandths. So 20 thousandths wear right here. Now I know a lot of people say, and it's probably true. I checked across the flats, and they're not the same from this side to this side, using a setup to keep everything parallel. There's a few thousandths between the two. But one thing I did notice, and I didn't notice this when I bought the lathe, you can see how wide this flat is here. And then when we rush down to this side, you can see how much thinner it is. So, you know, when I bought this lathe, it wasn't under power. It was covered in years of dirt and debris. It was actually in a precarious spot up on a mezzanine to even look at. So I could only get on one side of it. It was dark. There was no lights in there. All I had was a flashlight. And probably not the best ideal situation for buying a machine tool, but that's what I did. And, you know, trying to, you know, salvage what I can. Hopefully they give me a good price for grinding, and, you know, I can get that done, and maybe I can take you guys along for the ride and view the process if the company would let me. But that's a little bit down the road, a few days or so, but I got to get all these dimensions, and I just wanted to share with you this part of the journey of this old lathe. Hopefully we can make something of it. I guess we can take a fast look at the carriage, and you can see the wear on that as well. So I'll head over to the surface plate, and we'll take a look at that. All right, here we're at the surface plate. I got the carriage upside down, and you can see this area of wear right there. Let me take an indicator in there. You can see we're roughly close to zero. It's not that important. And we got 10 thousandths and then some. And this is the side towards the chuck. So it's the working end. Same thing on this side. You can clearly see that ridge. So I don't think that would be, it wouldn't be that hard to machine out and put some turkite or Rulon or okay, you can see where 7 thousandths more than we were on the other side. And you can see we're pretty flat. The carriage is pretty flat. Sorry if the shaking is bothering anybody, but got some pretty significant glaring going on here. But you can see we've got a little over 5 thousandths of wear on this side. And if I turn the carriage so we can look at the V's, I don't even know how to measure this yet. The only thing I can think of is dropping a dowel in here and a dowel in over here on this end and on this end and put an indicator over the top, but that won't tell me how much is worn away. So I mean, if we look in here, oh, let's see, can we see it? Yeah, you can see right there. It's quite a bit. I'm not quite sure how to measure that. I mean, that's just a very tangent edge of a former surface. I wish the companies had specs on these things, because, I mean, you got these surfaces here. You know, I'm sure those would work as good reference surfaces for establishing the height of these things. But I don't have any of that information. I don't know if anybody does. If you do, leave it down in the comments where I can locate it. And I'd be greatly appreciative of having that extra information. Or if you got any ideas on how to measure this lip. I mean, right now all I can think of is, I don't know if I could set that up and run an indicator across here on the angle with it set parallel to the surface plate. I don't have to come up with something. I grabbed a few blocks, tipped it up. It's within a couple thousandths across this flat here. That's close enough. I mean, I could keep going. I got to drop it a little bit now, but so if we say that this is 0, which is 10, trying to keep as much travel on the indicator as possible, and we come over here, we can see we're at the other 10. So that's 20 thousandths of wear along that one side of that V, which is the outer side. And I'm sure I could tip it up, check the inside, but what's the point really? I mean, there's a lot of wear in this lathe. Don't know if it's worth saving or not. But anyhow, I think that's enough for this video. Again, this is the documentation of the wear of this old lathe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I try to put out content as regular as, for me, humanly possible. And I try to make it interesting without doing too much yakking. This is Mike with +8 Precision. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.